everybody, welcome to another 3D Printing Doctor Who project figure reveal video. Today we'll be looking at another favorite monster of mine. It's number 22, a Kroton as seen in the 1969 Robert Holmes story, The Krotons. This is another re-release and not much has changed since my original 2018 version, other than that the design has been recut and modified to work with resin printers. All files are available for free on the 3dprintingdoctorwho.com website, and if you click on the file link, you'll see that there are two separate folders for PLA and SLA versions of the figure. Do make sure that you are using the right version for your style of printer, since the PLA version will not work on an SLA resin printer due to the several snap-together parts, and the SLA version might work on a regular PLA filament printer, but it contains several small, thin parts that may not print correctly if you attempt it. Also note that because this figure has a ton of unavoidable overhang areas, it's going to look a little messy when printed on a regular filament printer no matter what you do. So you may need to do a considerable amount of sanding and cleanup, especially on the pinchers and underside of the large forward-facing pyramids, if you want it to look anything like the example I'm about to show you here. So here's our finished version. This one has been resin printed, so it really shows off the surface detail. He's got all the essential movement of the original costumes in that the head spins and the arms can retract in and out of the body and do kind of what I call the little Kermit flail. And the waist is slightly hinged so he can lean forward and rock back just a little tiny bit, which is basically the exact range of mobility that the original costume had. He also comes with his little, or actually not so little, gun attachment. You see it there, which you actually can fit into the arms using this little hole on the side here. It doesn't stay in there particularly well, but there you go, it does work. The costume in the episode itself actually cheated, so the gun was so heavy that they had to have the end of the nozzle suspended by a thin wire, so the guy in the suit could even hold it up. And there's also a little nutrient tank hose attachment, which I've already managed to lose on mine, but I'll show it to you here in a picture. And it clamps over this little valve thingy right in the center of the chest, and you can stick a small length of rubber tubing on the back if you want to be able to hook the figure up to a small glass tank filled with bubbling silicon compounds. So as far as printing this thing, if you're doing regular filament printing, the arms and other small parts should be printed at 100% infill for maximum structural integrity. The head, body, and base can be printed at whatever you want, though you may want to adjust your wall thickness to be thicker than normal, since if you end up having to sand it, you don't want to accidentally end up going all the way through and making a big hole in your figure. If you're going to print in filament, I do strongly recommend picking up some PLA+, sometimes referred to as Flex PLA if you can find it. This stuff is great when it comes to reducing layer lines and ugly stringy bits on overhangs. It also does a really good job of printing smaller parts under 5mm diameter, which will come in really useful on the pinchers and other tiny bits. It's more expensive than regular PLA, but well worth the added price if you want to produce a better looking model. If your figure does come out messy, especially around the pinchers area, I found that a low temperature solder gun with a sharp tip can sometimes be useful for cleaning up rough and malformed print sections by partially remelting the plastic. You do need to be extremely careful doing this, not just so you don't burn yourself, but because you only want to melt the plastic a little tiny bit and just make it flow together into a slightly smoother sheen. And if you get it too hot, it'll just start collapsing on itself, which you definitely do not want. For painting, this is one of the few classic series monsters that I've yet to find any color reference photos of. The costumes must have just ended up in a dumpster or somebody's private collection when filming was completed, since they never made it at any of the traveling exhibits in the following years. The head and shoulder sections seem quite reflective, especially in outdoor scenes, so my best guess is that they were painted with off-the-shelf aluminum spray paint, similar to what was used in the Cybermen suits of that era. But given that they were supposed to be crystalline, it's entirely possible that they could have been a pearly white, the color of quartz or marble. We just don't know. So I ended up going with a regular old silver, And there's this pretty cool stuff called Spazstick's Ultimate Mirror Chrome Airbrush Paint that will give you a highly reflective metallic sheen, especially if you paint it on a gloss black surface. You don't even have to use an airbrush for this stuff. A regular foam brush works great too. So if you use it on a black SLA resin print, your entire figure will come out looking like polished steel. On a PLA print, the layer lines disrupt the mirror chrome effect, but the end result will still look pretty close to the light aluminum spray paint that was probably used on the original costumes. And the gun has 2 stripes on it. I actually mispainted this one. There should be a stripe here and a stripe here of some darker color. Again, we can only guess what color that might have been since no color reference photos exist for the story, but it's safe to say if you painted a darker gray, it'll probably work just fine. So there we are. Another fun figure to complement your character options collection. And as always, if you want to see what figures I'll be working on next, don't forget to hit like and subscribe and visit the project on Facebook and Instagram for the latest updates and figure release information.
Oh dear.
Now do you see what you've done? Fooling around with this stupid machine!
But I'm not a gun!
But the machine doesn't know that!